Alright, so this is an item stacking video where we're trying to show what items to stack in TFT to help AD and frontline comps. First, we have this triple static Shiv Ashe, which you'll see is just an AoE machine destroying the back line. It's absolutely murdering everything in her path. Even though she's getting attacked by double Azir backlines into the backline, you can see that the supporting cast around her obviously can finish the job, running it with poison. But you can see the damage she pumped out before she was defeated was 6,600 plus, because she's basically just triple shooting the backline, and she's got the crystal buff, which would allow her just to be a machine gun in the back. Even though this Azir player has a better Siver, his summon didn't reach her, and so she's free casting. You can see the true power in the triple static Shivs and how it just destroys the field. And it's paired really nicely with a poison buff, which the goal is to have her kill a backline unit without being able to target it specifically before it gets to cast, because it's poisoned by Singed and she's getting procs from static Shivs. Again, you're gonna see the same thing here again, this Ocean Mage player, where she's just destroying everybody just by getting her autos off on the frontline unit, which is the only target she can reach as a ranger. And that's what's allowing her to defeat everybody. Next, we're going to show my personal favorite, which was triple Bramble Vest Skarner. Pretty easy to get Bramble Vest because no one pryos armors right now. And you'll see the power of the Predator procs with the Bramble Vest, which is an enhanced version of what Thornmail used to be, because it does an AoE around him when he gets those procs off. And you'll see just AoE procking, Predator, Predator, Predator. Value of the crystal buff is he can stay alive while getting his shield to proc, like you see there, because he should have died, but his shield allows him to stay alive, so it's kind of a double way for him to stay alive and do his Predator procs. Here in the final few fights, we ended up having to play a matchup against a really stacked Ocean Mage player with a Mage Lux, which got a lot of procs off. Obviously, we countered that a little bit because Crystal is not going to allow those bursts to be that big, and then Skarner has that shield, but we did lose this fight. And luckily we stayed alive with 1 health towards the end of it, and allowed us to really outposition over time now that it was in a one-on-one scenario. So the key here is we put Skarner in a location to where maybe he could get not bursted too fast, so we put him in the back line, and hopefully the Singed was able to apply poison long enough to where people like Amumu couldn't get their ults off, which would stop Skarner since he doesn't have a Quicksilver Sash. He's got the triple Brambles. And you can see procking after procking. Helpful in this situation as well was the static Shiv Ashe, which got additional procs to get them low enough to where Skarner's Predator ability would proc and kill them in the backline. Again, working around this Amumu, got the Amumu to be dragged by the Singed. He still got his ult off and stopped Skarner, but that's okay because Skarner getting hit is what's allowing these procs to go off as well, right? So worked our way. The last fight wasn't as even difficult as the previous fights, but it was all around getting that Amumu off of Skarner so he could get to the back line and start damaging people from an AoE perspective. Going into the Siver double IE, the value here is the Lunar buff. So this Lunar buff increases the crit, right, over time every 7 seconds, plus she has 2 IEs, so it's basically an AoE crit machine. She's dropping 400, 500 crit bombs on everyone from an AoE standpoint, which is just absurd, but similar to how the static Shiv Ashe works. You'll see here, even though she's gonna eventually get CC'd, those AoEs have already done their damage. I mean, she's doing, let's see, 700, 400s, 1Ks on the backline units, 1100 there on a weaker unit, and just standard 400 against a Warden, which is pretty big, and then another 1100 there. So, I mean, units only have around 2,000 health with 2-star, so 2 crits and they're done. Insane. And obviously with the Blade Master comp, you have the support of Azir, you have the Janna ult to keep everyone alive, but really it's the Lunar with that extra crit, and you can see the power of AD crit and what it does to your opponents. So really good, I think a really good route to go. Gloves and swords are pretty priority, but if you end up being at the lower priority pick and carousel or get a few drops, you can get them, and this is definitely how you could utilize them well. You can just see there various 1K plus crits on the screen, and there's no way to defend against that or outposition that. Only thing you can do is get a Zephyr or a good CC chain onto Siver. And this one, even though it's a 4th place, definitely could have been better. Malphite double Titans Resolves is absurd, especially with the jeweled Gauntlet. But you'll see how this, his ability to get these stacks up and then what he does after once he gets large is insane. Unfortunately, I think both these fights were against double Hush players, so he may not have gotten his ults off perfectly. But yeah, see, he's not ulting here, even though he's got the stacks. He just got big from his double Titans. But once he pops off with his ult, massive 2,500 crits all around, and that's for magic base, plus he's clapping for 700 autos. So not only is he doing 2k plus magic base damage, he's also doing 7k crits because of the Titan Resolve from his auto attacks, his AD damage. Another situation where he got hushed, so wasn't able to ult instantly when he had it, which is unfortunate. And you want to put him in the front line so we can get in those Titans Resolve stacks, so we couldn't really out-position against the Hush players. It was just a bad pairing. As he's getting his ult off, look, destroyed a whole backline, just single-handedly, just there goes your whole backline. It was just fantastic to watch, even though we got destroyed by York minions, which, you know, unfortunately, I think he should have been able to beat those one by one. It's crazy how much damage comes out of the York light minions, even with the debuff they applied to his abilities. Double RFC Olaf, wanted to try this to show, similar to set 1 double RFC Graves, you're just trying to get an AoE cone that covers most of the map from where a unit can't be targeted and CC'd. And this is applying that pretty well. Obviously, if he had IE or Hush, it might have been a little better, but Disarm does do the same effect as Hush in a way by stopping your targets, as it's doing here. And he also has a chance to get the procs from Glacial. So 2 ways to CC from an AoE perspective is pretty good. We'll get to see it again here, where he's just AoE coning. So you can really play around the positioning, but the key to this is not to let him jump, right? So if they are backline driven, he might still jump as a Zerker. And now we're going to go down to the Inferno buff and take some damage there. And unfortunately in this game, we just couldn't turn past the 3rd place, because you'll see we're going to get destroyed by a Azir summon to the back line, so it doesn't allow Olaf to ult and then really start popping off. And even though we got him to jump actually and dodge a backline attack, Azir summon was right on him. This one wanted to show because we want to see what Triple Hurricane can do. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that well. It needs another item. And the Titan Resolves on the Braum did allow him to do his job and withstand the front line with that Warmog as well. And we were able to get Ashe in a position to carry. It's just not enough damage from these Hurricanes because she's doing AoEs, but it's only 10s to 20s, sometimes 40s, maybe a little 60 or 70 damage if she crits, maybe a 150 on those little hits, but she's only hitting for such weak damage. I mean, the Hurricanes alone only apply 60%, so you're seeing a bunch of little damage ticks. And when your opponents have so much health, it's not worth it. I mean, you can see 8s and 25s flying across the screen there from her AoEs, from those Hurricane procs, and it's just not enough damage to kill the backline as a static Shiv would be able to do. In this last fight, we had her in perfect position. She was free casting the whole time. You know, without a mana item, she's not able to ult right away, which does slow the progress of these AoE procs. But you can just see all these 20s flying across the screen, just not enough to even take out a Tibbers. So there she goes down, and we end up with third. First place, I think this is one of the best Ashe builds because it allows you to have the AD values as well as the static Shiv procs, which is what you want, right? Her targeting and destroying the backline. But the little AD support is great, especially when you have Last Whisper on one of your Rangers. In this instance, we have one on Ezreal and one on Twitch. So those Deathblades are really going to do a lot of damage when the opponent's armor is lowered to 90%. And even though she went down in this fight, you're running 4 Rangers, you still have multiple units that can carry you through a fight. This is the best, I think, positioning for Ashe once you have the Taric and you have that frontline capability. Using Braum as a shield that can apply Glacial to the frontline stun on like that Malphite so no CC comes her way. Even though she got hit by Nautilus's ult, she's still gaining Deathblade procs because her static Shivs already got applied to every enemy because of her ult casting so fast. And that's another key to the static Shivs, is the fact that she has 2 mana based items allows her to insta ult because her mana is full at the start of a fight. So you see the value in it here, especially. just targeting the frontline unit, using them as a facility for those static shifts to proc, gaining the Deathblade ability, stack after stack. You know, she ends most fights in this situation with, you know, 8, 7, 9 plus stacks. In this final fight, we switched to the left side to counter the CC that she was running up against. Nami did get placed to counter that move from us, but it just wasn't enough. And Nami 1-star is just going to die from just static Shiv alone. Doesn't even need to be targeted by any unit. And then of course you also have Twitch coming through, but I think the Deathblade double static allows you to apply both magic and AD damage a little bit more strong. And in this one, third place with IE double static, we weren't able to get another Deathblade. So we ran the IE, which, you know, single target crit is good, but it's all about using her as an AoE machine gun unit, right? Which is why in the end, I think triple static is nearly as good as double static Deathblade. But single target damage is not the priority. Trying to just reach that backline unit, which is what Rangers have a hard time doing. The only way to really do is through your Singed, or throwing like an Assassin Kion in there for a backline stun. But with the Singed, you know, paired with the static Shivs, obviously you're trying to lower the casting time of your enemy's backline. I think we still could have gone further in this game, probably could have gotten a top finish. However, you'll see in this last fight here that had a little bit of bad luck with targeting from Lux, which can occur. Because with the 2-star Lux, we did have the Crystal 4. Should have been able to pull this off. You have a machine gun unit that has really large reduction in damage, as well as a geared up Lux. She had death cap, she had everything she needed, but just couldn't get that last shot in, and we barely lost by 1 health there. So hopefully that showed you a couple ways to run stacked items on ADs, as well as frontline units like Malphite and Braum, and it really allows your comp to pull off or just center around one carry.